The day you stop romanticizing men, you see reality. At first, when you were younger, it was Cinderella. And then as you got older, it became smut books, dark romance novels, and movies like 50 Shades of Grey. These stories shaped your understanding of what you believe a relationship with a man should be. But unfortunately, these men have used these stories that you have romanticized to take advantage of you because they understand the more they can get you to romanticize them, the easier it will be to keep you emotional and irrational in your relationships with them, which is why on today's show, I'm going to explain to you how dangerous it can be to romanticize men and how to prevent yourself from doing that so that men can't use that against you anymore. By the end of today's show, you will be so logical and rational in how you view men and the decisions you make about them that they will never be able to fool you with their mask ever again. Let's get started with our point number one, the fantasy that you were raised on. Now, as it relates to believing in this fantasy, here's where it starts. Your Cinderella stories, your Beauty and the Beast, a beast being tamed by a kind, sensitive, soft woman. And then as you mature, your smut books and your dark romance novels take place of that. Here's why it's dangerous though. See, the men might not necessarily be interested in those stories, but they do understand that you are consuming those stories. They do understand that you believe in those stories. They do understand that you're interested and you romanticize those stories. So then what happens for them is they say, okay, well, since you believe in these stories, how can I use these stories to get you to believe in something that isn't actually true? But if you've already romanticized it, you naturally want to believe in that idea or ideology. And I know we all want to think that we're immune to influence and that nothing can influence us and nothing can get us to believe things that we don't want to believe or force us to make bad decisions. But the reality of it is, if you've been consuming the same type of content from when you were a young child to then you become a teenager and then you become an adult, and it's all of these fantastical stories about how your relationships will go with men that resemble this emotional roller coaster and this back and forth and this push and pull. And in some cases, this mirror or this vision of a man being Prince Charming and just coming to you and sweeping you off your feet. All of those things can be detrimental to how you choose partners, to what you see in men, and what you choose to or to not see in the men based on what they show you. And so the men are receiving all that and understanding all that. And they're saying, okay, if I know I want to get something from her, and I also know that she wants to believe in this narrative in which she lives in a fantastical dark romance novel, or she believes in this narrative that her Prince Charming is going to fall out of the sky and save her from obscurity. Well, then how can I use the narrative that she already wants to believe in to my advantage to then get her to lower her guard? Because if I can present myself to be the person she was always looking for, well, then it's a perfect situation for me to use that and use the fact that her guard has been lowered to then take advantage of her. For point number two, I want to tell you, not every man is that man, and make this clear to you. And I want to be very, very clear. I'm not saying that you can't find a good man. I'm not saying that every man will treat you like garbage. What I'm saying is that the man that you're looking for couldn't possibly be every man that you ever meet. The reality of it is, when you accept that, okay, when I go out into my dating life, I'm not going to romanticize the idea that the next man I'm going to go on a date with, oh my God, if we hit it off or we start flirting, that's going to mean that we're going to be together forever and we're going to get married and this is going to be so magical. You know how sometimes when you're really excited to date, which there's nothing wrong with being excited to date, you meet a guy and immediately if there's like a smallest little, inch of a little bit of a spark, you're just like so excited and you're just thinking so far ahead. And you're thinking so far into the future of like, wow, when we get married, it's going to be like this. And when we walk down the aisle, it's going to be like this. And when we have children, it's going to be like that. And it's romanticizing a man who literally has not done anything for you in the relationship. And again, I'm not saying that it's bad to believe in the idea that you're going to have a good relationship. I want you to believe in that idea. But I also want you to calm yourself down and relax yourself a little bit and remind yourself that the only way to know for sure if a man is actually for you and who you're looking to be in a relationship with is to give yourself time to observe and analyze his behavior and his actions, and then allow his behavior and actions to let you know what he's really about. For our next point, when you stop romanticizing men, you get so much harder to play. And the reason I'm saying this is it's a positive thing. It's a great thing. I don't want you to think that becoming more analytical and logical in the way that you approach men, especially the men that you date romantically, is a bad thing, or it strips you from your ability to love. It is a positive thing from the standpoint when you stop romanticizing men and you always just see them for who they really are, you are now very clear, because you're not always trying to guess what did that sentence mean? Oh, but he typed this out and it wasn't without an emoji, or it had this emoji instead of that emoji. So what does that mean? Because last time when he said this, it meant that, and he did this. And last time when he said this and he did that, but that didn't make sense because that wasn't. Now you're just more like, wait. I just need to pay attention to the actions, and the actions will tell me exactly how he feels. The actions will tell me exactly who he is. The actions will tell me exactly what type of man that man is. If he tells me that, hey, I want to be in a relationship with you and I want to take things seriously, but he doesn't do that, I understand that it means he doesn't actually want to be in a relationship with me and he's not nearly as serious as he actually is. And you see how men are going to find it a lot harder to play games with you and play tricks on you because you're going to have a lot more clarity. That's why I say, when men want to take advantage of you, they want you to be very, very emotional. That's why if you ever try to hit a man with logic and say, you did this and you did that, that was inappropriate, this is why I'm leaving you, he'll say, but you know how much I love you, and you know how much I want to be with you, and you know that we were meant for each other, and he'll say all this stuff that's supposed to get you emotional. Same reason they'll bring to you emergencies randomly when they know that you don't want to talk to them, because they know that will get you emotional. The more emotional that you are, the easier it will be for him to take advantage of you because you will be more irrational. That's why I say, as you stop romanticizing men, you naturally become less emotional in your approach in dating, and you become that much harder to take advantage of overall. Let's go to our next point here, that his words never back up his actions. So when he says, I really love you, and I really care about you, and I really, really, really am very, very serious about being in this romantic relationship, remember, if you already want to believe this is your Cinderella story and he's your Prince Charming before you've even gotten a chance to observe anything from him, and he's telling you that, those words will hold a lot of weight in your mind because you're like, those words fit the narrative that I already wanted to believe in. And then from that point forward, you're like, okay, he really wants to be with me. He really wants this relationship. He says he really loves me. And so you're thinking that all of this is true. He really is your Prince Charming. This is the situation for you. But then imagine now you're acting on the situation as if he really is doing these things, but he's not actually doing these things. He's just telling you that he wants to or will do these things. But then now you're confused when down the line, the man that's saying he loves you and the man that's saying he's super serious about you can't even ask you on one romantic dinner date, can't even be planned and scheduled and organized with you, that you have to hit him up and say, hey, you promised me that we would go out on Tuesday. Why didn't you hit me up? Oh, I forgot. I was busy. I was with my boys. I forgot to message you. I forgot to call you. Maybe next time. And you're thinking, but this is supposed to be a man that said that he loves and he cherishes me and wants to be with me really seriously. So what happened to that? What happened to that is the words never match the actions, but you romanticize the words because you are romanticizing the man and wanting to believe in the fact that he is your Prince Charming even before he has shown you anything. So for point number 8, we're going to talk about the burden of hoping again. What can happen as well when you start romanticizing all the men that you meet, all the men that you date, is you go through this emotional roller coaster where every time you meet a new guy, even if you like meet a guy at work and you flirt with him for like 5 minutes, you start playing all of these scenarios in your mind where you're like, oh my God, what if we get married? What if we have children? What if we're together for 55 years and we grow old together and we die together and we get buried together? What if this is the man of my dreams? What if he's gonna be my husband? What if we get married tomorrow? What if he puts a ring on me tomorrow? And it's like, you're going on this roller coaster where you're constantly thinking to yourself, okay, this guy is going to be the guy. This situation is going to be the situation. We're going to go all the way. And I'm not saying that it's bad to believe in good things as it relates to your relationship and the men that you date. What I'm saying though is, and what can become dangerous is you start to overemphasize in your own mind how far something will go when you don't necessarily know if it's even going to go anywhere. The problem with that is if it doesn't go anywhere, imagine you going and taking yourself from a 5-minute conversation that's a little bit flirty. You're up over the moon and you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. We're going to get married. And then now, let's say the next day when he's not paying attention to you anymore, or he's like ignoring you, or you realize he's got a girlfriend. Now you're like back in the dumps and you're like, oh my God, I thought this was going to be my Prince, Charming moment. I thought I was going to be Cinderella. I thought he was going to save me from like again, you're romanticizing so much the idea of men and meeting them, and this being your story, and this being your time to have your running off into the distance, that when it's not that, you're like so down afterwards. And I don't want that for you. Again, there's nothing wrong with believing in the idea that you will have a good relationship, that you will find love, and that you will meet the man of your dreams. I just don't want you to romanticize every encounter you possibly have with the men that you date, because it will become toxic for you and your own mental health to go on this roller coaster of building all the guys up that you have one conversation with, and then being down in the dumps when you realize he's not nearly as serious as you thought he was. Because a guy can't convince you that he's serious on day one. A guy can only convince you that he's serious over the course of time. So believing in him and romanticizing your relationship is about romanticizing what has actually happened, not trying to build yourself up for something that you believe may happen one day. You will naturally want men who make you feel the same as when you are reading your dark romance novel and the character is doing the craziest of crazy stuff. You know, he's grabbing her by the hair and he's holding her off the edge of a cliff. And he's telling her, I'm gonna drop you off this cliff unless you slurp me off right now. Like, that's how the dark romance novels are. I've read some of them, they're insane, okay? So, but my point being is, imagine you're consuming this. Imagine the psyche that this is playing on you. Imagine what it's starting to get you to fantasize about and believe in and desire. You're like, oh, I would love a man who that's just so crazy. It's insane that I kind of love it at the same time. And then you're now looking for men who take you on that same emotional roller coaster as the main characters in the books that you're reading, in the novels that you're reading, and the movies that you're watching. I'm not saying it's bad to want your relationship to be exciting and to be stimulating. However, wanting your relationship to take you on that same emotional roller coaster that a book or a movie does is actually really, really bad for your mental health. Because remember how I talked about earlier, the books and the movies are giving you a very extraordinary, fantastical version of life that couldn't possibly be sustainable in real life. If you were going on an emotional roller coaster like that in your real life, you would be exhausted every day, every single day. And this is not, the point of this whole show is not to demonize dark romance novels or movies. I just want you to detach yourself from feeling like I want to recreate that in my real life. I want to give kind of an example of how that can manifest itself in real life. So I know some of you watching me are dating or have dated or will date a married man or a man who's in a relationship. Let's just be adults here, okay? Not everyone's in the perfect situation. So I'm not going to pretend like some of you aren't doing that. But this is a perfect example of how easy it can be to romanticize men that take you on a roller coaster and romanticize the emotional roller coaster itself. Because let's say, for the sake of example, you're with a married man and you've been fantasizing about the idea of like this will they, won't they? Oh, you know, he wants me so badly, but he can't be with me because his wife, but he hates his wife and it's so hard for him, but it's so hard for him to be with me because his children and his wife's a monster and she won't let, and so in your mind, you're like, oh, but we should be together, but we can't, but when I see him, I want to kiss him. And when we hug in the break room at work, and then we talk and we text, but I can't text him all the time because sometimes he's in bed with his woman. So he sneaks out and he calls me and I sneak out and I call him and we meet up and while it seems great if you're reading it in a book, and it can be exciting initially, you eventually get to the point where this becomes exhausting. But you're almost like addicted to the fact that it is emotionally exhausting, but it's draining you simultaneously emotionally. And it's also putting you in a position, think about it, the longer you're investing yourself in this relationship that is emotionally exhausting, but you're low-key excited or attracted to the fact that it's emotionally exhausting and it's taking you on a roller coaster because it's just like your dark romance novel. Imagine how self-sabotaging that can be in nature. Because when you start asking yourself, wait, but I don't have real happiness here. I don't have real stability here. I don't actually feel emotionally safe in my relationship. And then you start longing for the fact that, yeah, it was great for this to represent a dark romance novel and be a will they, won't they type of thing. And for me to be like, wow, we love each other and we're sneaking around and it's so exciting. But then after a while, I stop craving the excitement and I start craving the stability. I start craving the sustainability of a relationship that I can actually feel safe in. I start craving feeling chosen and feeling like a priority with the man that I'm dating, as opposed to feeling like he's simultaneously loving another woman and I'm a second-class citizen. And so you're conflicted now, because what was once exciting and what might even still be exciting at times is also making you feel like garbage. Do you see how self-sabotaging the romanticization of the men and the men that you date through through the mediums that you consume, like movies, TV shows, books, novels, all this other stuff, can actually be detrimental to your mental health and your ability to have successful relationships. Simultaneously, as I talked about, the men who take you on an emotional roller coaster will naturally excite you. You will also find yourself naturally bored with the men who are more stable. Let me be very clear here. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be excited and having excitement in your relationship. But what you also want to understand is part of your happiness as a woman is feeling safe in your relationship, feeling emotionally safe especially. And the way that you feel emotionally safe in your relationship is by being with a man that you feel is predictable, being with a man that you feel you can rely on, being with a man that you feel safe with, because you know what to expect from him. And you know he's not going to deviate from the way that he treats you, deviate from the way that he goes about this relationship. You know that you will be taken care of and you can rely on him to take care of you. And these are really, really important aspects to dating men and to having successful relationships that make you happy for the long term. And the reason, this is why I'm saying you have to stop romanticizing men and the men that you meet, especially through the medium of the things that you consume, because when the stable men bore you, you will always push them away. They won't be as exciting. They won't take you on that emotional roller coaster. And you'll think to yourself, I have a worse relationship because when I'm with this guy, I'm not like this and that. And I know some of you are thinking, I'm not that dumb. I would never not choose a stable man and a safe man just because he's boring to me. You don't realize, instead of saying to yourself, I don't like him because he's not taking me on an emotional roller coaster, because naturally you're not going to want to admit that to yourself, that that's the reason. What will happen is mentally, you'll say, I don't like that guy because he's not my vibe. I don't think I'm really as attracted to that guy. It's just me and him, we don't really click. We don't really mesh. We don't really have chemistry. And see, what happens here is you change the narrative. Instead of saying it's really because I'm bored of him because he's more stable and less of an emotional roller coaster, you make it something else. Your attraction to him, there's not a spark, you don't feel that. And so you make it something else to convince yourself that that's why you don't like him, when it's really because the fact that the emotional roller coaster isn't there isn't as exciting for you. And I want to go right into point number 16, which is you then let the outcome go. When you are romanticizing every man that you meet, remember how I was talking about earlier, you start to envision in your mind, I had one 5-minute conversation that was a little bit flirty with him. From that 5-minute conversation, I'm going so deep into us being married and us being together, and this could really work out, and this could be a whole thing, and we'll have a family. And when you go so far deep into that, imagine having a 5-minute conversation. That doesn't mean he really likes you. That doesn't mean he really wants to date you. That doesn't mean he's going to be serious about a relationship with you. And so from that, you start to feel like, well, imagine if you were putting so much into the idea that you guys are going to build something from that 5-minute conversation. You're now really, really attached to the outcome that this has to work. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to be very, very, very disappointed. Imagine how much emotional and psychological pressure that puts on you, that every guy you start, even from a first date, if it goes even decently well, you're like, we have to be together. This has to work out. I have to have him. There's no other option here. That's where it's so easy to get in this very desperate scenario, very desperate mind frame where the first date went well and you're like, great, we have to be together. This has to work out. I'm super attached to the outcome. And then the next date either doesn't come or it goes very poorly. And you're like, oh my God, we have to make this work. What do I have to do to fix this? I thought that we were going to be together. I thought that we're going to get married. Again, this is part of the effect of romanticizing men and romanticizing relationships, that every guy you encounter, it's now the biggest deal in the world. Let's go into our next point here. I am probably going to go in a bit of a rant with this. Just bear with me. It's very important to me. And it's very important to me that you understand this. Stop romanticizing the idea that your man is going to fall from the sky and bestow himself upon you and knock at your door when you're sitting at home on your couch and just be perfect and present himself to you and everything is just going to work out. Dating is not a lottery. Romance is not a lottery. The fact that you have a great relationship is not by accident. I'm going to touch on this in my next point as well. I understand you will see things that make you feel like, well, they work for other people. Just because they work for other people, that doesn't mean that that's how you should go about your life. You have to understand, in order to have a good relationship, in order to give yourself the best opportunity to have a healthy, positive relationship, it means you will have to put work in. It means you will have to do things. It means you'll have to learn, whether from people like me, grow in your understanding, go out on dates, experience good men, experience bad men, go through some tragic situations, right? The more you're learning from someone like me, the less bad experiences you have to have in order to know what to expect for the future. Anytime you push back on that and you say, I just want everything to fall into place and I just want everything to work out, and why does love have to be complicated? Anything you want in life that you want to be successful at and you want to see positive results in, you have to put work into it. Unfortunately, that's the nature of life. Now, will some people not have to put work in and still get what they want out of it? For sure. Does that mean that that's a strategy for everyone? Of course not. So, and I want to touch on this as well in my next, I told you, I had to make 2 points out of this because it's such a big important point for me. I know for a fact, I've heard this a million times. Women will come to me and they'll say, Tomisin, you're an idiot. You're a stupid idiot. I don't know why you make videos. You don't know what you're talking about. You're telling me I got to do all this work for men. You're telling me I got to play all these stupid games. I got to say this. I got to act like that. I got to make sure I ignore him if he does that and he does it. You're dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. Because my friend, she was on Hinge for 1 week. She met a guy, super liked him. They super liked. They went on one date, the same date. In an hour after they met, they slept together. There was great sex. They had a great time. They got along super amazing. And now they're married. And they have 3 beautiful children. And they lived happily ever after. And my friend did every single thing that you say not to do. You're an idiot. I need to stop listening to you. You're a stupid YouTuber. I answer that by asking a question. If your friend won the lottery, let's even imagine 3 of your friends won the lottery consecutively, back to back to back weeks. All of them won the lottery. Are you now going to quit your job because you say, well, 3 of my really good friends won the lottery back to back to back weeks. So that means that I should bank my entire life on the fact that because my friends won the lottery, the chances of me winning the lottery are probably really high, even though they're not. And I will quit my job and just play the lottery because since my friends won the lottery, I will probably win the lottery too. So my strategy in life, in making money, will be to win the lottery like my friends did. Even though I acknowledge that winning the lottery is extremely unlikely, simply because my friends did it, I'm going to assume that that should be my strategy as well for success. Would that make any sense? Wouldn't that be extremely financially irresponsible of you to do? To base your life decision and how you choose to make money moving forward based on the fact that your friends won the lottery, while simultaneously acknowledging that winning the lottery is not a common occurrence. My point being is, yes, I'm sure a lot of you will have friends that they do none of this stuff. They don't have to watch shows on this. They don't have to practice any of this. They just be themselves seemingly, and everything seemingly falls into place. At least that's your perspective on it. Even though a lot of times it's not true. You're not seeing a lot of the work that they put in because they don't tell you about it. But even that's beside the point. Let's say even the friends that you have that really don't put any energy into this and it works out perfectly for them. Great, it worked out for them. That doesn't mean that that's a strategy that will lead you to success. When you're strategizing about your life, the way you give yourself the best opportunity at success in anything, not just dating, in anything, is by strategizing, having a plan, and executing on that plan. Do you really want something as important as the life partner that you choose to be left up to chance? Where, yeah, it could go amazing and you could meet your perfect man, but also it could go horribly. The reason I'm saying this as it relates to, stop romanticizing men, is romanticizing the idea that your man will fall from the sky is a lottery mentality. That I don't want to do any work and things will just fall into place. Not gonna work like that.